The Sinquefield Cup took place at the beginning of August. Unfortunately, I was away on holiday, so I didn't have time to give my usual daily coverage. But I would like to look at one of the games that took place there. To be honest, looking through the games, I didn't find it the most inspiring tournament. I mean, there was some chess of excellent quality, but somehow, compared to other years, for me personally, the tournament didn't really catch fire. Wesley So was a deserved winner, but his score was only 5.5 out of 9. There were a lot of draws in the tournament. Nothing wrong with draws, but yeah, as I said, it didn't really catch fire, the tournament. So I don't want to look at a game of Wesley's. I didn't find his wins particularly inspiring, but I'm going to look at Hikaru Nakamura's last round game against Ding Liren. Well, I was excited to see Ding Liren playing in the tournament. Unfortunately, he didn't play that well. I think he needs simply more experience playing in these kind of elite tournaments, to be honest. And I hope that he manages to learn from this, because I like his style very much. Anyway, in this last round game, Nakamura had the white pieces, and it was a standard Slav, although this can transpose into many different openings, perhaps Cambridge Springs or an orthodox Queen's Gambit after Bishop e7. And here, well, another alternative is for black to take on c4, and of course this is the fantastically sharp Botvinnik variation. I mean, there's reams of analysis on that, a speciality of Garry Kasparov, of course. But Ding played h6, so this invites white to take on f6, and this is a much calmer variation for both sides, actually. White obviously has a bit of space and some kind of lean development, but black has 2 bishops and is pretty solid. But instead, Nakamura kept the tension, this so-called anti-Moscow gambit variation. So bishop h4, the idea is that, well, it doesn't simplify the position, and black can take on c4, and so now we have a pure gambit on the board, and this has been seen many times before. So black holds on to his extra pawn here. I've got to say, I mean, I don't pretend to be an expert on this variation. Of course, you know, I've played through and seen games by the likes of Anand and Kramnik and many other top players over the years, but just my gut feeling in this position that this looks like so much fun for white to play. For a pawn, white has a lean development, and in order to hang on to this pawn, black has had to really damage his structure on the king side. But yes, I'm very well aware that players such as Anand have been very successful playing this with black. But anyway, that's just my feeling. Here there are 2 big branches. Nakamura played h4, which looks very reasonable to me. But looking back over past games, I was struck by a game that Spassky played in Siegen in 1970, where he just played very directly. He just played d5. This is the really dangerous move in this whole variation. It looks as though white is just giving a pawn away, but d5 often just explodes the position. It's the move that black always has to watch out for. And Spassky won in 21 moves in very fine style. Maybe we'll have a look at that another day. Anyway, h4 played by Nakamura, and this of course looks very logical because black certainly doesn't want to break his pawn structure by taking here, but when he pushes on, of course this pawn looks very loose, and the knight must be good on e5. So knight d7. And now this was taken, and bishop e5. So, Well, already black is, I don't know, it just feels very odd to me that the whole black position, black's position is an utter mess, but he does have this extra pawn, which, if the position simplifies, could be a very healthy pawn. Here, bishop takes g4 has been quite popular, just regaining the pawn. But black actually hasn't done badly from that position by sort of playing rook g8 and castles queenside. It is very messy. But instead of recapturing the pawn on g4, Nakamura played b3. So again, it keeps more tension, and this is a much rarer line than bishop takes g4, and clearly Nakamura had done his homework. But, well, let's see. Ding took on b3. Nakamura recaptured the pawn. So, well, this pawn exchange opens up the a file, but also opens up this diagonal for the bishop. So watch out for something hacking on b5. Now, black could simply develop here and try to get his king to safety, and of course it's possible to take on g4, but actually queen c1 is quite a nice move, bringing the queen over to the king side, as we're going to see in the game. Ding protected the b5 pawn with a6. And castles has been seen here before, but actually Nakamura played this move queen c1 again, so that, for example, if bishop g7, queen f4, the queen is beautifully placed here, looking at the pawn, bit of pressure on f6, looking at bishop d6, and if rook d8, covering d6, then just castles. And this is a very dangerous position for black, because his king isn't really fantastically safe on the king side. But Ding kind of upped the ante by playing rook g8, hanging on to this pawn. Now, why does this up the ante? Well, it means his king can never find safety by castling on the king side. From a practical viewpoint, well, we'll see what happens. It's a bit desperate. So Naka just castles. Knight h5. This is really playing fast and loose. Of course, opens up this diagonal, and maybe one day you might be able to play g3 or something, but neglecting development and putting the knight on the side of the board. Well, it's hardly surprising that a move like d5 comes into consideration, and this is as I mentioned earlier, the classic move in this position. This whole variation to detonate black's position, and such a tempting move here. Let's look at a couple of fun variations. Ding took on h4 here. Let's have a look and see what happens if he just gets greedy and takes material. Well, here you'll notice the king in the middle and rook e1, threatening all kinds of nasty discovered checks. Yeah, castles queenside not possible here because the bishop takes g4, check, of course. So bishop e7 blocks the e-file, but then bishop b5, threat, queen back. Now let's have some fun. Bishop c6, check. If bishop takes c6, then knight b5, pin and win. That knight can't be taken. Well, it's actually there's no real alternative. It has to be taken here, but that just wins. And if king d8, this is fun. You can just play rook takes bishop, and this completely destroys things. So, for example, queen takes d6. Well, at the moment, what's the score? White is an exchange down, but the piece is just flooding into black's position. Obviously, the king is not going to survive. White's king completely safe. Black's king just disastrously placed in the middle. There are other variations, but that just gives you a bit of a taste of what can happen. My machine thinks that f6 is a good move for black. This looks so ugly. And then just taking here. Well, you need ice cool blood to play like this. Well, you can take on d5 here. and black's position just looks an utter mess to me. Yeah, if you've got a computer by your side, you might survive. But I mean, really, black's position looks an utter mess to me. Ding took on h4. g3. Well, that really shuts out any black attack. Queen came back. D takes c6, and now it's all downhill. If bishop takes c6, then knight b5 opens things up very handily. Black is not going to survive, even after a trade of queen is this. It's not going to survive. Black's not going to survive. Queen takes bishop. Pawn takes, and now a crunching move, knight d5. I suspect Ding overlooked this one several moves before, just opening up the queen, and of course that king is just not going to escape. So the game finished like this: check, and rook takes a6. White is only a piece down for this position, and this is a last desperate lunge for black. But well, Nakamura had obviously calculated this out. Obviously not. But white should not take this, but bishop takes b5, that threatens queen d7 mate. Well, knight check, but this gets taken, and if g3, then f4 actually just keeps the file closed and the king is safe, and that wins. So f6, and then rook check. Queen takes, and here, well, Ding had enough. Queen's going to move, and you're going to win at least a rook. It's absolutely hopeless. Crushing victory in that game for Hikaru Nakamura, and that brought him up to 50%. Didn't have the best tournament, but it's always nice to finish on a win like that. So, well, that was a good warm-up tournament for the US Olympiad team. The Olympiad in Baku starts at the beginning of September, just a couple of weeks' time, or well, no, less than that. And the US Olympiad team of Wesley So, Hikaru Nakamura, Fabiano Caruana, Ray Robson, and Sam Shankland is looking really powerful, and it's going to be fascinating to see how they get on, for example, against Russia. You know, those, and China, of course, the defending champions. It's going to be a fantastic scrap. And I'm delighted to say that the power play team will be in Baku reporting on the Olympiad, at least for the final 4 rounds. So I'm really looking forward to that. So watch out for our interviews and reports direct live from Baku. I think that's all for the time being, but I will be posting more videos over the next week or so. Thanks a lot. Bye now.